Did you know that for over 1,000 years, a shocking number of French kings were forced to marry their own cousins? From the very first dynasty to the last, marrying a relative wasn't just common, it was a powerful political tool. Today, we're diving into the complete list of every French king who married his cousin, and trust me, the stories are wild. Let's start at the very beginning with the Merovingian dynasty, which ruled from 481 to 751. The Merovingians were notorious for intermarriage. They believed keeping power meant keeping the bloodline pure and concentrated. Our first king, Clovis I, set the trend. He married Clotilde, his second cousin. This wasn't a romance. It was a cold, hard political arrangement to consolidate Frankish power. His son, Clothar I, took it even further, marrying several cousins and relatives, all forced on him by complex clan politics. Then we have Charibert I, who married his kinswoman Ingoberga in another political cousin marriage. His brother, Chilperic I, had multiple wives, and you guessed it, some were close relatives, all due to pressure to maintain the dynasty's strength. Guntram, another brother, also married relatives at the cousin level, forced by the powerful Frankish nobility who wanted to secure their own influence. Later, Dagobert I continued the tradition by marrying multiple noble cousins from Frankish families. These were all strategic political unions. A few generations later, Childeric II married his relative Bilihild to keep the Frankish bloodline intact. Then came Eudoric III, who also married a close Frankish relative under immense dynastic pressure. And it doesn't stop there. Kings like Clothar III, Clothar IV, Clovis III, and Childebert III all married noble women who were related to them within the extended Frankish king groups. These unions were so common they were considered standard practice. So to wrap up the Merovingians, at least 8 of their major kings married cousins, all driven by the brutal, clan-based politics of the era. Power was everything, and family ties were the chains that bound it together. Next up, we enter the age of the Carolingian dynasty, reigning from 751 to 987. By this time, the church was getting stricter about who you could marry, but old habits die hard, especially for royalty. Let's start with the big one, Charlemagne. While his wife, Hildegard of Wenzhou, wasn't his first cousin, she was a close blood relative. Their marriage was a classic political arrangement designed to link powerful families. It was a kinship marriage, plain and simple. His son, Louis the Pious, followed in his footsteps, marrying his relative Ermengarde. Again, this was a political kinship marriage, meant to secure alliances and continue the royal line with trusted blood. A generation later, Charles the Bald married his third cousin, Ermentrude. This wasn't a passionate love affair. It was a dynastic arrangement to the core. Then we have Louis the Stammerer. He married Ansgardi, who was very likely a kinswoman. While the records are a bit hazy, the union was almost certainly a political one at the cousin level, designed to satisfy the demands of the nobility. So for the Carolingians, even with the church watching, we have 4 major kings who married cousins or very close blood relatives. The political pressures to consolidate power through marriage were just too strong to ignore. Now, let's move on to the Capetian dynasty, which ruled from 987 to 1328. The Capetians were masters of marrying within the tight circle of European royal and ducal families, and that meant cousins were often on the table. Our first and most famous case is Robert II, also known as Robert the Pious. He married his first cousin once removed, Berthy of Burgundy. This marriage caused a massive scandal. The church absolutely rejected it and excommunicated him. In the end, he was forced to annul the marriage. This remains one of the most notorious cousin marriages in French royal history. Next, we have Philip I. His first wife, Bertha of Holland, was a distant cousin. No scandal this time, just a standard, arranged union to form a political bond. A few generations later, Philip II, famously known as Augustus, married his second cousin, Isabella of Hainaut. He didn't have much choice. Immense political pressure from powerful nobles forced his hand. Finally, there's Philip III. He married Marie of Brabant, Who was his distant kin? It was another cousin-level relationship, a strategic match to secure alliances. In total, at least 4 Capetian kings had cousin marriages, showing that even with the risk of the church's wrath, dynasty often came first. Now we arrive at the Valois dynasty, which held the throne from 1328 to 1589. During this period, the political chessboard of Europe was incredibly complex, and cousin marriages became a key strategy. First, let's look at Charles V. He married his second cousin, Joanna of Bourbon. This was a strongly political union, a forced dynastic alliance meant to consolidate power within France and secure the loyalty of the powerful Bourbon family. Then we have the calculating Louis XI. He married Charlotte of Savoy, a blood relative. This was a classic cousin-level kinship marriage, and it was entirely forced on him by the Duke of Savoy, who wanted to tie the French crown to his own ambitions. Louis had to go along with it for the sake of political stability. But perhaps one of the most important cousin marriages in French history was that of Francis I. He married Claude of France, who was his double cousin. This was a 100% forced political move. The goal was to ensure that the Duchy of Brittany, which Claude was set to inherit, remained tied to the French crown. It was a brilliant, if uncomfortable, strategic play. So for the Valois, we have 3 major kings marrying their cousins. These weren't just personal choices, they were high-stakes political maneuvers that shaped the future of the kingdom. Finally, we reach the Bourbon dynasty, which ruled from 1589 all the way to 1848. The Bourbons were part of a vast network of European royalty, and marrying within that network, often to cousins, was standard procedure. It all started with Henry IV. He was forced to marry his distant cousin, Margaret of Valois. The arrangement was made by the Royal Council to try and heal the deep divisions of the French wars of religion. Henry himself objected, but he was politically cornered and had no choice. Then we have the Sun King, Louis XIV. He married his double first cousin, Maria Theresa of Spain. This was an extremely close cousin marriage. It wasn't about love. It was forced by the Treaty of the Pyrenees, which ended a long and bloody war between France and Spain. Their marriage was the seal on that peace treaty. Fast forward to the final Bourbon kings, Louis XVIII married his distant cousin, Marie Josephine of Savoy. This was a purely political match, arranged to strengthen ties with the Italian House of Savoy. His brother, Charles X, did the exact same thing, marrying another distant cousin, Marie Thérèse of Savoy, in a union arranged through dynastic negotiation. So to sum up the Bourbons, we have 4 kings who married their cousins, continuing a centuries-old tradition right up to the end of the French monarchy. From the shadowy Merovingians to the Grand Bourbons, marrying a cousin was a recurring theme in the French monarchy. It was rarely about love and always about power, politics, and dynasty. These unions shaped alliances, ended wars, and defined the royal bloodline for over 1,000 years. What do you think about this long-standing royal tradition? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history.